Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to analyse the new upcoming map in Hell Let Loose Remagen. We'll start by looking at the historical context of this map and the real-life tactics that were used before analysing the in-game map itself by looking at the layout, what the developers have revealed so far, and how the real-life tactics may be applied in the game. Then we'll finish by highlighting the promising elements of the map and the potential issues before exploring potential solutions to those problems. The Battle of Remagen centred around the Ludendorff bridge. After smashing through the Siegfried line, which was approximately here, the Allies came up against a natural barrier before they could advance further into Germany, the Rhine, a river that runs from approximately here in the north all the way down south to Switzerland. Well, it would run the other way, but I digress. The Germans had destroyed most, if not all, of the bridges that crossed the Rhine, with the exception of the Ludendorff bridge. This wasn't for lack of trying, though. Perhaps the German engineering was coming back to bite them in the arse as they tried and continued to try and blow up the bridge throughout the ensuing battle. Ultimately, after fierce fighting, the Allies captured the bridge, spoiler alert, providing them an unexpected route across the river and onwards to the industrial heartland of the German war machine. Before we analyse the detail of the map in Hell Let Loose, how did the real battle progress and which tactics were used on both sides? With a mixture of infantry and tanks, including the new Pershing tank, the Americans met little resistance as they progressed through the town towards the bridge. Once there, on the western side, the tanks began to pummel the German positions east of the river. From the German perspective, they had the advantage of a 600-foot hill for their defensive positions, but all they wanted to do was delay the Americans so they could blow the bridge. But a mixture of bureaucracy and a lack of equipment meant the bridge remained standing. Having captured the towers on the west side of the river, American tanks progressed onto the bridge alongside infantry, receiving covering fire from the captured towers. They suppressed the German positions to a point where the infantry could fight their way towards the eastern side of the river, cutting wires and disposing of demolition charges as they went. Eventually, the infantry reached the German side, neutralised the machine guns in the eastern towers, and generally mopped up the remaining defenders. That was, of course, a very basic overview of the battle, but now we have an idea of what happened. Let's take a look at the Hell Let Loose map itself. The Americans will start at the bottom of the map and have a clear run to the bridge, whereas the Germans have a longer route to get there. So the Yanks should gain initial control of the bridge in the warfare mode. But the Germans get the high ground advantage on the other side, great for their infantry, but not so great for their tanks, which may struggle to fire downwards. The bridge is the only way of crossing the river, so it is clearly going to be a killing ground as machine guns, snipers, tanks and artillery smash the bridge from both sides. Smoke and covering fire will be key, and it will be interesting to see how the night version of this map affects the balance too. Before progressing too far into our analysis of the map itself, let's examine what the developers have to say. On Steam, you'll find developer briefing number 170, where Max discusses the new map. In case you're wondering, Max is basically Mr. Hell Let Loose. After the introduction, we get straight to the heart of the problem, artillery. Max recognizes it's going to be extremely powerful, and indeed, if you have 3 guns constantly pounding the bridge, you're never going to get across. Compounded by the fact that your recon can't actually get across the bridge to deal with artillery, it's a serious concern. We'll discuss the impact of this and potential solutions later in the video. Moving on, Max discusses the limitations of tanks due to the terrain. The high ground means the German tanks will struggle to aim their shots downwards, whereas the Americans can aim up at the Germans on the hill, but can't aim down at Germans occupying the lower land on the other side of the river. So far that sounds frustrating from a tank crew's perspective. Max goes on to say, infantry are able to defend the key towers on either side, and having seen some gameplay, it's a relief to see just how big the 4 towers are. Their size and the terrain around them means you don't have to cross a killing ground to reach them and establish a place to provide covering fire to the bridge. This statement, however, sounds less promising. We expect this to be a very difficult battle in which machine guns and snipers rule. That just doesn't sound fun for 95% of the players in the game then, but I really hope I'm wrong on that. The final big factor to be discussed by Max is the airhead, a temporary spawn point that can be parachuted into disputed territory, but not into enemy-held territory. The first problem is, when fighting over the bridge, you are seriously limited as to where you can actually drop an airhead on the other side, as most of the area you could drop it is covered by water and the bridge. The second problem is that airheads are very easy for the defending team to spot. The airhead is a controversial subject at the best of times. Being able to randomly spawn behind the enemy's position isn't to everyone's taste, but then again, others see it as simply signifying paratroopers and a way of mixing up the gameplay. However, placing this much reliance on a controversial mechanic is risky at best, and it's debatable as to how effective it will actually be on this map. We'll go into more detail on this later. So let's summarize the good, the bad, and the ugly before looking at potential solutions. First off, I think this map is going to look amazing, and I don't just mean the map itself. The sheer amount of concentrated firepower in one place, the explosions on the bridge, the traces from coaxials, tanks firing across the water, explosions in the water. At night, that bridge is going to be lit up like a Christmas tree with flares going off, and we know that it's going to sound amazing too. This map has the potential to be an insane World War II visual spectacle. Another positive is exactly what Max said. This will provide a unique experience within Hell Let Loose, and that's exactly what players need. Developers who are pushing the boundaries and not scared to take risks in doing so. I would much rather that to a Call of Duty style release one game per year that's basically the same because money and profit. But it's highly likely this new map is not going to be fun if you are the team having to attack the bridge. The experience will differ depending on the skill levels and communication on that particular server, but if anything, it'll be worse on a server where the defenders know how to defend the bridge. The real concern is that the bridge choke point creates a stalemate cycle of spawning and dying, with no flanking options to move the battle forwards. Tanks may be frustrated by their lack of options when it comes to aiming due to the steep terrain, and recon may be relatively useless for large portions of the match, as they have no way of actually getting behind the enemy lines to do their job. With that said, I'm a strong believer that if you're gonna moan about something, you should at least attempt to offer up a solution to the problem. So let's explore some potential solutions to the issues we've identified. Perhaps introducing a new type of airhead is worth considering, such as a recon-only airhead that can be dropped just behind the front line. It's still possible the enemy will see it and destroy it, but that's a bit less likely when it's behind the front lines. Even if it does stay up long enough for a spawn wave, it's only going to be a recon team that can spawn there, which is totally different to having a team-wide spawn point. If they survive, the recon team can actually do their job, like harassing artillery crews, dismantling nodes, and even helping to coordinate a push on the bridge itself. At least this would help fix the issue of having no recon squads at all, so this could genuinely be worth exploring. At least one other option to cross the river would be sensible, but the entire team swimming or using a boat to cross doesn't seem appealing. So what else could we do? Engineers being able to build a pontoon bridge sounds promising, but suppose you live long enough to start building it, you're not going to last long enough to finish it. A pontoon bridge that is already partially constructed, where engineers only have to repair a broken midsection, for example, could work, if only to provide a distraction from the bridge crossing. Though this would be more relevant in the assault mode, where only one team is actually trying to cross the bridge. Perhaps the best idea we can think of has already been implemented. Make the bridge nice and wide, with multiple walkways and plenty of hard cover. Considering how long the bridge is, this would provide the opportunity to push up the bridge section by section. We already know there are separate walkways, and looking at the accounts from the battle itself, the infantry used the metal girders of the bridge for cover, while the friendly tanks suppressed the MG positions to help support the infantry advance. If you can create a tug-of-war approach to the bridge, with both teams on the bridge fighting for every few meters, it would be more enjoyable and would also be relatively true to the real tactics seen in the battle, as opposed to running onto the bridge, dying, running onto the bridge, dying, and having to start all over again each time. Ultimately, I'm happy to give the map a try as it is and just cross my fingers that I'm going to be proven utterly wrong. Believe me, nothing would make me happier. I can certainly understand why the team have made the decisions they have made, and most, if not all, ideas to improve the map come with their own issues. Though I think the recon-only airhead is the least offensive, other than making the bridge big enough so you can actually stay alive for more than 2 seconds. But for a game that is often accused of being a running and dying simulator, the inevitable slaughter at Ludendorff Bridge might become very tedious very quickly. Or it might just be the most epic battle you've ever taken part in. In typical Hell Let Loose fashion, it's going to come down to the server you're playing on and the people you're playing with to determine what kind of experience you're going to get. There should be another playtest soon, so we will know a lot more then. But one thing is for certain, it will be a different experience that you'll need to learn to play, and that's exactly what the devs want. During the real battle, the answer seems to have been to pummel the other side of the river, capture the towers on your side, and provide covering fire as your tanks and infantry advance up the bridge by moving from cover to cover, before a mad dash to establish yourself on the other side. Is that the way the battle will unfold in Hell Let Loose? I guess we'll just have to see. Most importantly, I want to hear from you guys. Experienced Hell Let Loose players, Foxhole or squad players, or anyone who plays strategic or tactical games, please share your thoughts. What are your predictions, either positive or negative? If you enjoyed this video, I have plenty of strategy, World War II, Hell Let Loose or Foxhole content and more, so feel free to check those out too. See ya.